Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. We have a new year upon us, and with that comes some changes, some exciting ones. Maybe you're thinking of, I don't know, potentially starting a business or moving your life forward. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you own a company. You want to upgrade that, move it forward. We are going to talk about mental health connected to being an entrepreneur. There's a lot going on there. Stress being one of them. No surprise with that. And no surprise that all of this is in her wheelhouse, because that's exactly what she is, having started an amazing company that is a leading mental health company specializing in different therapeutics. Every week I learn something new about her and what she's got going on. And it's just amazing. She's got her finger on the pulse of our health. The company's called Revitalist, and Katie Walker is back with us. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Glad to be here, Steve, as always.
How could you not be doing great with the palm trees and sunshine in the background?
It's true. You're right. Yeah. I'm very blessed that I get the opportunity to make the entire world my work landscape.
Because you can.
Because you can. Yeah, because you see outside the box, So that's one thing, talking about entrepreneurs, like Steve, for years, I had to have people tell me that I was an entrepreneur. I was like, I don't think I am. And they're like, oh no, you are. And I was like, I don't think I am. Because when I went through school, right, I went through school for a structured job. Like I went from a nurse to anesthesia to psychiatry, like everything. It's like when you get out, you know what you are going to make. It's like box, like structure, stable. Yep. And I was in that space for so long, and then I created the clinic and just to bring help, but I didn't see that as an entrepreneurial anything. I just thought as we should do this because the world needs it, and because all the entrepreneurs that I've always been around, when people would say I'm an entrepreneur, I was like, in my head, I'd be like, you're a loser, right? Because all the ones that I've been around were not successful entrepreneurs. Like they were like, trying to get a job, trying to create, and I'd be like, well, what have you done? And they're like, oh, I'm working on like 6 things. I'm like, how long have you been working on them? 5 years. What do you have to show? Well, we're getting there, right? And I was like, I am not that person at all. So like I got a little trophy from a microdose, or what was it called? Wonderland conference a few years ago. And I was the entrepreneur of like 2021. And still, I was like, I am not that. But it's interesting now because I know I am that, plus some. I'm like an entrepreneur on steroids, I think, to a point. But seeing all the things, and, I'm learning every day. Like when you said, you learn things from me, like I'm learning every day so much. And I didn't know entrepreneurs, one, they're usually our greatest minds, right? Because they can see things that other people can't see. But two, the world that surrounds them oftentimes destroys them. And I was just never in that thought category. And I think probably a lot of people in the world are not in that thought category either. But entrepreneurs, you're taking a risk, right? And then when you take that risk and things start coming and they start, actually like becoming true revenue building or whatever, right? To show that you are succeeding. Well, along with that comes good, bad, ugly. I mean, you've got people like, I've created, which I'm being told this is a part of success. Like, you get your stalkers, you get people who harass you, you get people who are demanding of you. Like, you start getting people demanding like money from you and you're like, who are you? So it's interesting to see all of these things evolve. And nobody has any idea what entrepreneurs are going through. And, many of them, Steve, take their own lives. Entrepreneurs have a very high risk of actually killing themselves because, a lot of them will lose, right? They'll lose everything, all finances, their credit, their homes. And they do it because, or the initial stride was doing something that they believed in. So it's like our best hearts, our most compassionate people who have the best drive. And then the world's coming in and it's just like biting and taking a chunk of, all these pieces, to where a lot of times these entrepreneurs, they feel like they are no more.
Before we get to the health aspect, which is our goal today, but I want to go even deeper before we get there. Rapid fire questions. Here we go.
Ready.
What is an entrepreneur?
Somebody who creates.
How do you know if you're successful as an entrepreneur?
My personal opinion is that you have something to show for it.
Okay. When do you decide that you're not an entrepreneur? Many of us have these ideas and they don't come to fruition. It could be years, whatever it might be. How do you make that decision to say, it's time to go back to the 9 to 5 or whatever your situation is?
From what I've been around a lot, I mean, because I've got the public company, I've got private, I've got all these things, and it's been completely foreign to me, all of it. So, I think there's a really, really big difference. And I actually have an article coming out pretty soon talking about CEOs and founders and the difference. And, we can talk about the UHG guy who got assassinated, right? Because he was a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there's a very big difference between CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders, and visionaries. And I think a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, yes, they see something they want to do, right? But they take it here and they just keep building in this like abstract world and nothing ever comes to fruition. And that's not necessarily an entrepreneur, that's a visionary. And that visionary, if you don't know how to take these ideas and make something of them, the only thing that you're doing is daydreaming in my brain. And people might people might get a little offended for that, but to me, that's true. Now, entrepreneurs to me is somebody who creates and they actually make something successful. When I mean something successful, it means that you see a better way, you make a process for that, you put it on paper, and then on that paper, you start bringing in people to actually create something that actually is adding value in your current landscape. And then that's the difference, with like the CEO, because I've watched, of course, and it's funny, I actually started getting kind of attacked by people the day after the UHG guy got assassinated. That's when they started like demanding money for things that like weren't there. And people need to understand CEOs are not always entrepreneurs. They're not always founders, and they're not always visionaries to the point that we think that they are. They don't create. CEOs don't always create.
They execute.
And they're usually.
And sorry, I didn't mean to use that word. Now that I thought about that word, that wasn't the best word.
Well,
but they take a plan that's been established and move it forward.
They can see their visionary skill sets is they can see what needs to be done, but they're handed a map.
Yes.
It's almost like a general in a war, right? You're given the plan, but then they have to execute it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the bridge between, their owners. CEOs are owned, right? Their owners are the shareholders and the board. But then they're the bridge between the shareholders and the board up here. Then here's your CEO. And then down here is all your staff members. And what a lot of people think, and they think this with me too, because I've had a lot of, somebody could write a story on my life with this company specifically. But, people get under the mindset of thinking that the CEO, end all, be all, Wizard of Oz. Right. And that's not the case. They have their hands tied and they are in a box and they're trying to please the higher ups and the lower ends, like people who are boots on the ground, actually executing the mission, bringing in revenue, and the thought leaders of the space. Like they're right in the middle, So, the guy who assassinated UHG, he didn't assassinate the highest person in UHG. I mean, that's the thing. You may think the CEO is. CEO also had people that they reported to.
Right.
And that's the misconception of people. Now they're like, oh, let's target the CEOs. And like, yes, am I a CEO? Yes. But I'm a founding CEO. And there's a very, very big difference with that, because not only do I have to play the game between the shareholders and the board and everybody else below, but as a founding CEO, all these people are in this because of me. Like I created it. So if I can't see the next step that needs to be created, then
how does that company move forward?
Well, right. How does it move forward, and do I get out because it no longer it's outgrown me, right? So that's the piece, and people just don't understand that stress, Steve. And and if you're an entrepreneur and you want to start something new, here's the exciting thing: you are now the CEO. You are the chief executive officer. And I don't care if you're a company of one. you're the CEO.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who aren't entrepreneurs don't understand that. And they don't understand, with the health aspect of entrepreneurs, they have no idea. I had no idea. I still have no idea, but I am caught off guard less now than I once was.
How do you, let's say you're an entrepreneur. We've established that you consider yourself one, even though you might hide from that title like you did in the beginning. No, I'm not. I have an idea. Let's say you're there. Let's say you're working on starting something new. How do you minimize the stress, the load, manage time, all of that? Because there's so many moving parts that typically need to get done. And after a while, you're like, how am I going to be able to do that? And I got to believe that it paralyzes a lot of people.
It does. Have there been meetings to where I'm like, do I really want to show up to this? And a lot of CEOs won't. They just won't show up anymore. And it becomes very, very paralyzing. I think the first step is one, learning grace, knowing you're going to mess up. When I first started out, Steve, I didn't have a login to QuickBooks. I was like, no, those do that. I don't do that. And now I have logins to QuickBooks. I understand public company audits.
Yeah.
All these things people are like, I have no idea. Understand marketing. I know how to build websites. So if you're the CEO, people will talk to you. And I did say something to somebody one day because I was done. But you get so much advice, and they're not telling you advice as opinions. The advice is coming in as fact. So, Steve, what do you mean you don't have oversight of your finance, the 12 people in your finance company? What do you mean you don't have oversight of the books every day? What do you mean you don't have oversight of the policies and procedures? These are things you have to do. As a CEO, these are things you have to do. There's no way, Steve. There's no way that you can do all these at one time. What you have to do is do the best you can do. And that's it.
And delegate. And delegate when needed, and hire people.
You do.
But very carefully done.
You get messed up there too.
So how do you get outside of I'm not a control freak, but I keep tabs on everything. We're wired the same way. I got my login to QuickBooks. I'll generate an invoice when I need to, bookkeeper not around, whatever the case may be. I started making invoices in the very beginning, and this is going back, 2008, a Microsoft Word. Mm-hmm. just so it looked credible. Meanwhile, it was a financial bookkeeping nightmare. Because you weren't inputting, you were just providing an invoice. Right. But how do you let it go? How do you let it go, but still have control of it? Because we can't do it all. Yes, I'm the same way. I can build websites, but doing all of that. I agree with you. You have a vision of everything that needs to get done, but doesn't necessarily mean you can do each of those things well. Yeah, I don't want to build websites. I know what needs to get done. For a marketing company, there's somebody else. Joe does that. I got two different Joes. They do it. I know what they're doing. But how do you let it go to the point where you and feel comfortable?
I think you have to expect failure. And there's a difference between making a decision that doesn't work out versus end all be all failure of your dreams gone, right? So when you talk about delegating, oh gosh, Steve, I had to delegate so fast. And I was, my original company, they wanted me to open up 52 clinics in 2 years, the original investors. I ended up opening up 7 clinics, and we had 10, but I opened up 7 in 7 months. And when you're opening up clinics that fast, you're just here was my, direction was head on. I couldn't see all this other stuff. So I had to delegate. Well, everyone at that time, honestly, Steve, except about, I think I had 90 people. I think there's 3 left. They all failed to execute properly. And why would you say that? Why would I say that? The websites were all fragmented. The cost was way too high. My COO was hiring people not on budgets. The finance people, there was too many different funds going to all these different places, and it was buddy relationships, and I just couldn't have my eyes on everything, right? So, one, you gotta swallow it, and people are gonna they're still coming after me 2.5 years later after all that happened. And I did the best that I could do, right, with the resources that I had. So I think the biggest thing is like accepting, like, did I do the best I could do? Yes. Am I going to learn from it? Yes. Have I learned from it? Yes. So you got to have grace. You have to have so much grace for yourself, and you have to try. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. They've been so burned, they won't delegate, but you have to. Have to. Otherwise, and you've got to keep taking that chance. You can't be a one-man show. But one thing that has helped me the most, and I don't know other people's skill sets with this, when you delegate to these different divisions, if that person messes it up, you're the only one that typically can get in there and fix it. And when I say fix it, I mean like finance, like my audit. Like my public company has a cease trade because we didn't have the money to get, like, the audits cost like $600,000. It's crazy. So we're still working on all that stuff. But Steve, I've had to hire in 4 different firms because they still, I got it. I'll do it. I got it. I'll do it. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, are they doing it? Like, and then I had to come in and I tell people in my company, you do not want me coming in from left field to try to figure out what are you doing? Because when that's just me, it's like coming in and I'm just like snooping around, trying to make sense of things. But it's like, this puzzle, like it's almost like 52 pickup sticks or whatever it used to be, when you like throw all the sticks to the floor and you're like, all right, you got to make sense of them somehow. That's what CEOs have to do. That's what entrepreneurs have to do. And I think Elon Musk said it best. He said CEOs they're the only one in that company that gets to deal with the worst things all the time. And they're having to troubleshoot those things and critically think those things. And if they don't do it correctly, 1, they lose their job, 2, the company fails. And when a company fails, it's not the loss of what I'm trying to do. Yes, is that one aspect? Sure. It's me trying to cover the payroll for the people that work for me, because I know they're relying on me for money to pay their housing, rent, or their rental, their kids. Like, you've got so
much responsibility. Yeah. And what I'm getting validation from you that as an entrepreneur / CEO, that you need to have an idea of what's going on. Doesn't mean let's go finance. Doesn't mean you're an accountant. Doesn't mean you're a bookkeeper. You have an idea of what your company's worth. You have an idea of what the cash flow is. Maybe not to the penny, of course. Maybe it is so, but you have an idea. I believe that you can't just throw it to somebody and sit, you're moving in this way. You guys take care of the finance. Yeah, I'll check in with you later. And because I think that's where it goes wrong. And I've always had this mantra, and maybe I'm wrong, but in what I do, we don't make mistakes. We don't make mistakes. Be clear. We don't. Of course we do. But if you have that mindset, you'll make less. That's kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, it is. No, that's a really good way to look at all of this. And, and to expect that when you're going to be on calls, you're not going to know everything initially. Like, I've learned a lot, but I've shown up and I've listened and I've listened and I've listened, and, the article that's going to come out soon in Entrepreneur Magazine, actually, talks about, like, don't avoid people. And that's what a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs will do a lot of times, because it's like too much stress, because you've got all these people coming at you. I believed in you. Why did you not do this? And it's like, it's not over. It's only over when you quit. And so you've got to learn the balance of how do you stay healthy, but then also how do you make sure that what you're doing moving forward continues to remain healthy, or it's moving into the direction to be more healthy. So I think, Steve, it's a big, big, big learning curve of patience, acceptance, grace, and growth for yourself, and humbleness, walking in, knowing that you're going to do the best you can do today. You have something in your mind. You may have it all wrong today, but you still have tomorrow to make one of those things better. And then you just keep going, you keep growing. And because you can't be the best overnight. You become the best by living the hardest experiences and living through those.
And that all that list of words, and I agree with you 1,000,000,000%. I'm going to add one more: resilience.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and it will strip you down. Like I have cried in the shower. I have felt, Steve, it was really weird. Like I felt so unhealthy. I felt so close to death because there was just so much stress around me. Because like I missed a payroll. Talk about, yeah, missing a payroll. And that was horrible. Oh, it was horrible. Um, but but that was when I had a COO and I had a VP of finance that was running all my books. And but but it comes back on me, right?
But here's the difference. You felt horrible. There are
Oh yeah.
others out there that don't care. And I've encountered them where, how come I didn't get paid? Well, a couple of weeks. Something's not right there.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're transparent and say, yes, it will be. But I've even dealt with way back in the day working for a company, and I made a change. I went from big to small, privately owned company. Let me try something different. And yeah, I did everything, and it was cool. It was 19 months, interesting experience in the Hamptons of New York. Saw everything. You name the celebrities. I just wanted to leave. I had like an hour and a half commute. Like, Gwyneth Paltrow, hey, how's it going? I'm going to get out of here. However, that owner said to me, I will let you know if things are starting to dive in terms of finances. You will always know. Well, no, he lied. One November morning, I got an email looking at 7:00 in the morning saying, I've been released of running this company or managing this company.
Mm-hmm.
It was a blessing because it was just, I was beating on my body in terms of health with that commute and the stress and all of it. It was but there's somebody that didn't care. You cared about missing that payroll. And I think that's the difference. I want to throw this to you as we start a new year. No resolutions. We ain't doing that. The word of the year. Think about it for a moment. What is your word for 2025? It might help you to think of what your word could be or should have been for 2024. I'll give you my example. Why you think? 2024 for me, thought about it. Resilience is a strong one for me, but that goes back like a year before that-ish. Discovery. Learned a lot about myself and more in 24. For me, 25 is execution. I got so many things floating out there. I need to execute them. It's time. Move forward. What's your word for 2025?
I'm going to have to say empowerment. Because, oh gosh, all my drama started in 2022. And in 2023, 2024, it was like survive, survive, survive. Like, and it was like grasping. And the other day, and I thought, I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, you know what? In 2025, I'm going to be empowered in what I'm doing, knowing that I'm on the right path, knowing that I'm getting there, and to feel that level, not confidence, but empowerment to it's going to be okay. It's like this unrelenting acceptance that
I got it.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And I had that epiphany 2 years ago, even in my personal life. And I walked outside from this building, looked up at the sun, and I was like, wow, I'm good now. And I call it the quiet calm. And that sounds like what you're describing. It's a quiet calm. It's a knowing that we're going to be all right. We've crossed the bridge to we're going to be okay. Is everything going to go perfect and as planned? No, but it's going to be all right.
Well, right. And it's one of those, it's like, for so long, I felt like the world's attacking me. Right. But now it's to the point, it's like, okay, I've made it this far. Are there going to be things thrown at me? Sure. But are we going to continue to move in the path that this world needs? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And and that's why, I think 2025, and that's my goal, is to make sure that I stay healthy. Everybody else around me stays healthy. Are we going to mess up? Sure. But are we going to continue on this mission of love and acceptance and really pushing forward? Because you can be on a mission of love and acceptance, changing the world, but you got to also be warriors, expecting all these things are coming around you, that may try to get you off course. So if you're kind of in this, all right, the quiet calm, the little Yoda, per se, walking around, but the world's exploding, but we're still going to get there where we're pushing forward.
And stay healthy, because that's a key point. And even in the last 3 months, for me, I was going to execute these things that I'm working on. I'm like, everybody's going to do this. We're going to move it. And then I realized I need to take care of some health things. Nothing major, but things popped up. Check in, because I never did. So it's like time to check in with the doctor here. Do this, do that. And that's kind of like tap the brakes on it. And then I needed to tap the brakes on on all of that, just to address some certain things. And it's all good. But I guess it's also the quiet common knowing that you can't do it all. You need to go slow. Just have fun.
Or you can go as fast as you want. You can take off as big a bites as you want to in life. But you also have to accept, physics, right? Every action has equal and opposite reaction. The bigger you go, the harder you can fall. But it doesn't mean that you're going to give up. Right. You just have to eat a lot more crow along the way. If you're going to go fast, you're going to eat a lot more crow along the way. But you can still do it. You can still survive. And
be prepared. That's it. Be prepared. That's it.
Be prepared to the best that you possibly can.
Amazing talking with you. And timing is everything. Like I feel that this is for everyone that's thinking of making changes. And you are the CEO. Everybody's a CEO of yourself. Never forget that. You're in charge of yourself, your own company.
I love that.
Your website and you've got so much going on, even the AI version of you, which is super cool. Got to check that out. What's the best way to find you? Somebody's got questions, want to pick your brain. I know you have multiple locations of your clinic. How do we find you?
So Revitalist.com is the best website. And then, if they want to email, like corporate@revitalist.com, my team will usually get me those emails. So yeah, I'm always happy to go down rabbit holes with people. Love them.
Love it. Me too.
Yep.
I'd much rather be doing it in the BVI right now, but we're here and you're there and it's all good. If I can see a palm tree move and some sun, you made my day. And you too. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too.
And looking forward to next time we get together.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.